Zij komt met die Nee, Maria heeft mij meegestuurd dat ze de papieren zal brengen. We moeten gaan vertalen op de diploma en daar komt het. Hallo Maria.
Heb je diploma?
Een beetje moeite om behalve.
Oh ja,
Het is allemaal nieuw.
Wil je hier zitten?
voor mij is het
Als je eentje...
ging zoeken en ik kwam van die kant. En toen ik begon, ik dacht van, hey, hier is de kamer inkomen om te vragen of het is. En dan kwam ik hier.
The construction cranes working behind. Exactly. It's quite irritating, but they won't stop. Het neemt al om niet, hè? Vroeger was in Zwarte Witte Vlak.
Ja, die stel ik nog graag aan de kant. Als ik ben Nederlander. Dynamisch. Thuis, hè? Toen was je er nog.
Het is begintijd. Is dat half of kwart voor de...
Ja. kan best goed uit op de 3D. Ik weet het niet. Een hele bekende ding waar het even al lang in dit kan.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final presentation of the German Hoppen discussions. Joni has worked in what we call an external assignment, master project, and this project was came from a question that was posed by TNO about service composition and improvements of delivery of services to very clear question. To deliver services to people who use public services. So, and Joni is going to tell us how he solved this problem. So, Joni.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here's the big day to present more or less 6 months of intensive work at TNO. And because there's a lot of things to tell, I'm going to go straight to the point. And this is the title of my project, Public Service Improvement Using Runtime Service Composition Strategy. If you don't understand, be calm that I'm going to present to go in, I will divide it in small, I will make it simpler, going directly to the public service, which is the problem that we are trying to solve. So we go straight to the problem. So if you are public services, what are public services? In fact, it's a thing that I'm sure that all of you have already faced when you applied for subsidies, when you were born, and things like that. So that's a thing you have to face, unless you are the queen, or the prince, or Argentinian, or the prince. So it's always a headache to be dealing with the government. So I prepared a video for this.
Those people seem very odd, my studies. They've all been to the place that sends you mad.
The place that sends you mad?
Yes, and you will have to go in there as well. That's your next task.
What do we have to do in this place that sends you mad?
Oh, nothing much. You have to obtain a certain permit which will then allow you to go on to the next task.
I see. Nothing but a simple administrative formality.
That's right. A formality. A simple formality. You merely have to ask for permit number 838.
All right. We want a copy of permit number 838.
The port you'll find at the other end of town is down by the seaside.
We don't want to go to the port. We want a copy of permit number 838.
Eh?
Permit number 838!
Here, there's no need to shout. What manners? Where do you think you are, by Jupiter? Appliance window number 1, left-hand corridor, last door on the right. Come.
Last door on the right?
Last door on the right?
There is no door on the right.
He must have got it wrong. Let's try the door opposite.
My office.
Oh, we're looking for window 1.
Consult the floor plan on the 6th floor and close the door.
This is the plan.
Can't make it out at all.
Oh, no, here it is. Window number 1 is on the ground floor, first corridor on the right. Want a copy of permit number 838.
You have been misdirected. You have to apply for window number 2.
Next door to this one?
No, that one is window 8. I can't remember where they put number 2. Ask them at the desk.
But you excuse me.
Oh, can't you say I'm busy? Where was I? The financial situation. Oh, well, dear, the life.
Excuse me, miss.
By Jupiter, how rude people are these days. What do you want?
Permit 838.
Have you filled in the blue form?
A blue form?
No. Then how do you think you're going to get permit 838?
Where can I get hold of this blue form?
Window 1.
I've been there.
But you could apply to window 35. Ask them down at the desk.
You're at the party beginning to get me down.
Fill in this form and then you'll be able to get the pink form.
What big form?
The one you need in order to get permit 838. Window 12, second floor, staircase B, corridor J. Yellow form, window 7 on the 5th floor, staircase K, corridor W. Get green form, window 14 on the 2nd.
Calm down, Obelix. Calm down. There. Calm down.
We shall never get out of here, Estimate.
So this is this little video is just to show that the government doesn't give you what you want and how do you want. You need to comply with the government, and that's what makes it the whole process painful. The government is a strategy of using electronic technologies to improve the quality of government. So here's the rank from the United Nations, which shows like the 6 better e-government so far. They are the more developed ones. The Netherlands is well ranking. So then we can go further. This historical evolution of e-governments, which started around in the 90s, when every single public organization received money to develop websites, and as a result we had thousands of websites that are all fragmented. Every municipality created one website, the province government, the federal government, and for you as a citizen, you have a lot of websites to go, and the only difference is that you go online to different places, and the same way they were running from room to room. So in the last 10 years, they have worked to integrate the systems that were not talking to each other. For example, the municipality should be able to send messages to the federal government, and this is the work that have been done in the last 10 years. And the future, and what we are working at the moment, it's how to make the public services personalized, which is one of the main points in the current society. People are becoming more and more hedonistic. We are trying to have the world for ourselves. There's a long discussion behind it, but we will just keep the focus on the personalization. And here is the website of a Brazilian bank with some Portuguese words, but that's not the important thing. And here you say, I will translate it quickly. My page my message, my finances, my limits, my security, and why do I need so many lines? It's like, what's the difference of being just say pages or messages? So the point is, you don't need to have this bank account to have this. This is a feeling that we have everywhere. If you open your computer, you have my documents, my music, my video. Everything is towards the individuals. So maybe we are becoming happier and having more things like that. And that's what governments are trying to do. And what we are trying to do is find ways to improve it. How can we do it? There is a strategy called live events, which is so far what they suggest for e-government portals to better attend citizens. So what is a live event? When you get bored, when you marry someone, when somebody marries you, when you divorce, and death. So those things are relevant for the government. And here's the Dutch version of live events. When a Dutch person gets born or turns 50, I think it's a very Dutch thing, and I know more or less all the life events in my neighborhood. But what the point that I want to say here is that we are only interested in events that are important for the government, not if somebody is turning 50, unless he is applying for subsidies or something, retirement and stuff. People are usually very afraid of bureaucracy. This is a case in Cambodia where the couple was afraid of going to the government, the process and stuff. They decided to divide house in half. And even in America they did it. So that's the point we want to do. We want to use runtime service composition to support the idea of live events. And then this is a quite complex topic. I have been more than 6 months trying to grasp it, trying to understand the technologies, how do they work. And so let's go for, there are two types of composing services. Let's imagine that this airplane is a service. The pieces that compose this airplane, they might come from Asia, Pacific, Asia, North Asia, anywhere. And the pieces only have value if they are connected together, and at the end of the process, the airplane is working. So then you design it, and then you put a lot of people to really make the project. It takes months, a lot of people, and so on. So this would be the composition of a product, but we also take it as a composition of service. For example, in the bank, when there are some ways of lending money, you need a lot of people to make the software, and then step by step you have it. And at the end you have the product which helps the society or achieving the business goals. So the main, the challenge nowadays is to make it at runtime. So I'm going to show you a video where you will see how they composed an airplane on the fly.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes in the air. I grew up wanting to be on a wing, wanting to be up this high. Sometimes the temperature of the altitude will reach 60 below. It's crisp, it's refreshing. You never know what you're going to come across up there. A&D, Mallard, owls. These people back here, that's why I come to work. That's why I build airplanes in the sky.
We're not just building a plane here. We're building a dream.
I love this job. I feel like a banks up here. When I look over there and I see that little kid, I look in his eyes, that's all the banks I need.
So, another good example about composition at runtime is this building. It's not finished yet, but we are already using it, and it's functional and everybody is here for the presentation today. So the point is now it's becoming possible to create softwares that attend what the clients want at runtime. You don't need a group of people to develop a software, a product, but it can be composed at runtime, and that's what researchers and companies are investing heavily for the coming years. There are 3 frameworks that we studied during my study, and then we select Dynamics, which is a service composition engine developed at the University of Twente, and this is the one. Yeah, this framework gives it's suitable for e-government, and another reason why we selected was the possibility of have close be in touch with the developers. The level of complexity of dealing with these frameworks is incredibly high. At least for me, as a non-programming person, I am having a hard time understanding the concepts and making it work. So then we finally reached the solution framework, which consists of 2 important parts. This is given by TNO, which is the framework, the front end, where the citizen can access the things. And on the back end, on the right side, you have the composition engine. And let me go here. I need to give some explanation how the composition engine works. You have a service number 1 right here, and if you have all the inputs for this service, you can get it done automatically. But if you don't have all the inputs, you need other services that support that one. Then the engine helps you to find out the service number 2. If you don't have all the things necessary for obtaining that service, you go for service number 4 and 5, and then you make a backward composition. You have a goal, and then you have to find out all the forms that are necessary for achieving your public service. And the engine takes all of these services and organizes them in a sequence where it can work as if it would be normal software. So then you have it orchestrated. You have to execute service number 6, then number 3, number 4, 5, service 2, and 1. Then you reach your goal. That's the main point of the composition engine. But what is missing in this is the connection. And our work is basically the connection between the interface and the engine. It's like putting an engine inside of a car or an airplane or whatever it's the mechanical part. Inside of the engine, we had to add the information about the services. Which services you want for that your engine works. So these are the services that we are going to use for the prototype, which is in the end part of the presentation. The services are not inside of the engine, just information. You say, oh, this service is in that department, in that address, and so on. And we also developed an ontology, which allows the computer to reason about things. The concept of ontology is a bit complicated, but what I can say here is that you have a public administration that serves the goals, which are live events, and then the goals can be in order, ordering a parking permit, and handicap parking place, or validations, when you can validate several things. If you ask for one of those concepts, the computer can bring it. You can make questions to the ontology. So, but the thing is, both the services and the ontologies, they are connected through this piece of text, which says that service is responsible for validating the fee payment. So you make the question to the ontology points out this is the service that you want. That's the way you can really get automatic compositions. You don't need a person to develop the software. It's created on the way. So this is our model. The main points. So the composition engine offers several ways of connecting to it, and we use these connections to connect to the front end. So that's more or less the point of this thesis, which is organizing these connections to make sense for the e-government scenario. So this is the composition that we created. Our front end, our website follows this workflow, which at the end will achieve the results. This workflow, every piece here is one connection to the engine, and then we allow the system to go further. During the prototype, you will see how it works in a study case scenario. Then we have a prototype which is developed to indicate the social impact of the solution. And this is about Mr. De Vries, a traditional Dutch person, extremely active. He's from his house with his daughter Beatrix. And he used to be very active. He used to take part in every single Dutch events and to do a lot of stuff. And even abroad, he was showing off his shoes. And this is his house, which has every single feature that a Dutch can dream of. And one day things have changed in De Vries' life. Life event took place. He committed a big mistake, which is highly advised by Dutch people. Every Dutch people knows that. Don't take the cows out of the ditch. It's a very dangerous activity. And if you do so, you can get really hurt. And he did it. As a result, he got a high, this is what you shouldn't do. If the cow's there, just let it there. As a result, he got some injuries, broken, blah, 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 blah. Even some wooden shoes broken. And the point is, he's now handicapped. He cannot really be as active as he could. He used to be. So then he goes to the website, this is the front end of our solution. And then he writes, I want a handicap parking place. What does it mean? He wants a reservation in front of his house which says this is reserved for disabled people. Because sometimes his neighbors put their cars there and he has to walk and he has difficulties walking. So then the interface starts this workflow, which in return brings the service back, or the handicap parking place. This is a description of the service, what it does. This information comes directly from the engine, and it also indicates what are the inputs that you need, what are the inputs for achieving this service. So there are some numbers and codes around, blah, blah, blah. This is because the solution is a state-of-the-art research. Everything is being developed. We didn't have time. It was not intention to make it looking good. This is from another department. And because we are composing things on the fly. And it was difficult to spend a lot of time to make it looking good, and then things change. Then you have to redo everything, so you have to keep the focus on the real code and the logic behind it. So after he selects the service, he then he selects this service. Then the solution creates a form automatically. So the solution goes to the engine and say, okay, what are the things you need? And then it creates this green round things, which gives the opportunity for the user to really enter data. So then we have license ID. He needs a card that proves that he is handicapped, driver's license status, and so on. So if you have everything done, the solution checks it and says, okay, that's ready to execute. And when everything is executed, this information will be sent to the execution phase of the framework that would finally give the results number order, which finally would bring the service. So it wouldn't be necessary for him to go to several websites or go into several departments to get a public service done. So, and it's been composed according to his needs. And okay, now we are going to show how it would be if he doesn't have all the information. If he needs other services that will help him to achieve the handicap parking place. So he starts again the same service. Then he does not fulfill anything. And this part is more or less here. You validate, then it will say all inputs are available. No, so then you go for this resolve, which is a function in the engine. We'll say, okay, let's find out the solution for that service that you don't have. So then it says the 5 inputs are not valid. You need to go for these ones. The solution offers a list of services that you should go backwards to help you to get the thing done. So the first one, the arrow doesn't show any information, no suggestion, because there is no service in the ontology, in the engine that attains that service. It can be write your name. There's no service that will bring your name at the moment, so you have to write it. There's no service for it. But if you want a handicap card validation, then you have this service, which has these 2 inputs. You have to give your social number and your address status. You have to have your address validated, and you can select it. In this case, we selected the service which says ordered parking permit. And so now we have here a sub-service which has these other inputs. The solution will check again the validity of the data that you need. And in this case we say, oh, you are missing the fee payment status. Did you pay for the service? You have this. And the solution will again go in the loop and say, hey, you didn't check the validation of your payment. And it offers again the service that gives this fee payment code. Then the input is the fee code. So then you write down the code, in this case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The solution, this data goes to the next service, and all the tree that was created to identify the problems, they will be executed. And he gets the number again, the order number, and he gets the things done. So this is the strategy that we created, and this is the way the solution should work.
Please, sir.
I'm very busy just now. What are you after?
Permit number 838.
All right. Then come to leave.
It's as simple as that. And we hope that in like 5 or 10 years, everybody is already able to do so. And then we reach the end of the presentation, which is about contributions and future work. So we created a framework that allows personalization of services, interpretations of seats in perspective. He doesn't need to find it, he just writes what he wants. And the services can be all centralized in just one website, which is saving a lot of money. It can be used for many applications, not only for e-government, but for many areas. The more different perspective of our work, we are doing an orchestration of the orchestration of service. The engine organizes the services and reorganizing the way the engine works. So it's an orchestration of the service orchestrator, which is a new concept. It's being developed now, and this can provide dynamic interactions with the system. The forms can be created. They are all based on XML messages. And we also showed the runtime backward service composition, which means to go backwards until you find out the things you need. There are several limitations that we faced during the course of the project. We wanted to make, instead of just a word where the citizen asks, I want this service, he should be able to ask a whole sentence. I am handicapped, I have broken my leg, I have this, blah, blah, blah. And the solution should be able to get the whole text into one word that is inside of the ontology. We didn't have time for it. We translated the material from Dutch to English. We made some examples, but it's still missing to connect it to the solution. Finish the service execution phase. Our workflow has two phases. The first one is interacting and getting information, what you need, where is the thing and stuff. And the second phase is about executing it. We have created all the web services in Java and put it on web services. They are online working, but we didn't reach the point where we could actually execute a service and get the results. So this would be the next step. And prototype structure. I have got some problems with the development because I'm not a programmer. I made the code like 3 times, every time better, but I had to redo everything. I faced several limitations in terms of technical knowledge for dealing with the problem. I had the specification and the tools, but I didn't know how to make it scalable, easy to work. So it works, but not in the perfect case. But it's a prototype. There is a big point which the TNO people were asking for. We need how can I say? We need a tool that helps the civil servants to make the connections of the services and the ontology. We have shown a piece of text, but this is very technical. You have to understand what means everything, and the business guys, the civil servants, they are not going to do that XML files never. So this would be next work. And also forward chaining of services, which would be you go to the website, and then you ask for a permit, and then they say, hey, with this permit you can also buy, you can also take that subsidy. The same as Amazon. When you buy something, they say, hey, for this camera, you can also add this bag or something like that. This will be the forward chain of services, which is supported by the framework, but needs some work. And that's the end of my presentation and my master degree.
Any questions? No questions? No.
I think we have some.
Yeah, we have got.
Joni, one of your previous slides, I think it was halfway through the presentation, you mentioned a couple of frameworks, right? WSMF, Meteor-S, Dynamic OS. Apart from the fact that you had easy access to people who closely work with Dynamic OS, were there any functional differences? The abilities of the different frameworks, were they different, or would they have been equally suitable to do this task? You had better support for the other ones?
In fact, not. TNO has already worked with WSMF framework, and yeah, this is so much. And they have faced some problems because they have a different way of composing the service. Instead of connecting one to another, they try to, this framework tries to make the service, to treat it as an autonomous entity. You give the information to the service, and the service itself will find out the next one. And which another problem that we have experienced was that the frameworks tell a lot of good things. Yeah, we can do that, we can do this as well, this is like that, the ontology is here, blah, blah, blah. Everything is disconnected, but when you are working in the business work, you want the results, how to do it, and this is what is missing in the documentation, for not only for the WSMF, but the other ones too, like the others. They say a lot about the capabilities, but how to implement it is still a problem.
Okay, is that actually, because I know a bit of WSMF, is that actually part of the dynamic OS framework? Because WSMF does provide you with similar service description, with input output, adds pre-post conditions and even effects on some of those parameters.
In this case, yes, the way the framework finds out the inputs and outputs, it's similar, it uses ontologies as well. Dynamics supports inputs, outputs, prerequisites, and non-functional details about the service. However, we only treated everything as inputs and outputs for this case. So WSMF treats inputs different from prerequisites, and this is for simplification. Maybe in the next versions of Dynamicus.
Okay, that's taking prerequisites into account is not a part of the option for composing services or changing services at the moment.
No, only inputs. What is the data that has to go into the composition?
More questions?
No. Well, I have a couple. No, that's everything. Oh, you want to?
No, we take turns.
Okay, so a lot of emphasis was put in your presentation, also in the report, on the fact that you are applying this to the world of municipalities and e-government. What would you have to change in your solution and perhaps in your prototype as well, to be able to apply it to other domains, for instance, the mortgage, financial services?
Well, as for future work, as I have said, the other ways of composing, like forward chaining of services, could be combined with backward services of composition, which means you can make it more, much more dynamic, the composition in the way you can go back or forward to deliver the services. In the financial markets, I should study the context. The idea is that we developed a framework for the civil citizen. And for a financial market, the only thing you should do is to study more what are the requirements that the bank needs, and then you can create another workflow, and then you can run it. That's the main point of the current version of Dynamics, and what we are proving that is already possible to do. So this is in fact a state-of-the-art research. So it's everything that's been done. It's like try and error in many cases. So what we are proving so far is just that it works for this scenario.
Okay, may I ask another one?
Yeah, okay.
Well, if I'm correct, what you're doing is that the citizen comes to you with a goal in mind, types in the goal, and then you're developing a composition graph for that goal, that would solve the goal, more or less.
Yeah.
How complex this composition graph could become, and how well your solution can handle a large graph, let's say.
Very good question. The graph, I have studied how this graph is composed. You have several semantic connections between services, and they are all stored in the engine. So one of the decisions that we have done was to make the graph composition only in the engine, not in the workflow. So this gives the flexibility for creating workflows using that. How much it would, what would be the, how much, what's the extent this graph supports? It would require more.
Take for instance permit 838, which requires quite a lot of steps, and maybe perhaps also other permits next to it.
It will depend the number of services you have inside of the engine, how the ontology is connecting them, and it would require some more studies to really carry out the how do we call it, benchmarking. This would be also.
In addition to that, does it provide support for circular references, or does it detect those? If you need input A and B for services, which require other services, and in the end you come back to the same service you got back to in the beginning.
Vicious circle, more or less.
No, it's not a.
Oh, it's not.
No, the engine keeps control of every information that goes in, information that goes out. So it cannot happen.
Well, there is one thing I couldn't understand in the thesis. Would you please translate in Dutch your motto?
What?
Your motto.
Motto?
Yeah. The first page.
Oh, yeah. Nocta morto quem pelea is southern, well, more Latin American expression to say that if you are still fighting, you can still going, or you're not dead if you struggle.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of inspiring.
Well, I was saying translating Dutch.
Personalized.
I would also like to make some questions. First one is, how would you evaluate the live events approach? Because what you have done until now, actually we started with the question from TNO. We have this approach which seems promising. Can you evaluate it for me? Yeah, that was your original goal. You discussed that, but you didn't do that. Actually, what you did, you built a lot of stuff. Yeah, so that would make it possible to evaluate this live events approach. But how would you go further to evaluate the live events approach?
Well, I think initially the results should be polished a bit for allowing users to really use this as in a real scenario. We need to add more services. Those services that we have, they are only for demonstration purposes. They are not really complete to just give validations or not. So we should improve the framework to make it more realistic, and then do some research and putting a group of people to experience how does it really solve the problem, and if they're happy with that or no, and then draw conclusions. So we don't directly improve the quality of services, public services, but we support a way of we support something that we take for granted. We are taking for granted that live events strategy is going to help public e-government. So we take this for granted. We believe that we can achieve the main goal. So it's would be a new study to just research how effective it is in real case.
Okay. I have more questions.
Yeah, I have more questions. In your, I guess it was your final slide, you mentioned that for future work you like to improve on the interpretation of citizens' perspective. What are your ideas or thoughts on that? How would you want to improve that?
Interpretation of.
Like, I guess it's one of your final slides.
Okay.
Otherwise, I've taken it from your thesis.
Oops. Let's see. Yeah, too much technology. This is on thesis, right? The
I think it's either future work. Okay, no, it doesn't really say that.
Yeah, I think I took this over because when I wrote the conclusion, I was already full of other things. But
Okay, then I think it's in your master's thesis because
yeah,
you said yourself you need to personalize it further. It needs to be polished, but that's just a visual aspect. But can you improve on the interpretation of what the citizen really wants? How can you make it more personal?
the interpretation will come from the first step of the solution, which is the natural language part where he writes the whole text. This mechanism can be improved in precision. It's like improving how Google answers the question, more or less. So the more precise the language that you have, how precise do public servants describe the services. So this would be another research to carry on.
But this is still kind of responsive reactive. It's not proactive from a government standpoint. You also mentioned the use of user profiles, for instance, in your, I think it's in your recommendations or future work.
Yeah, this.
Do you view that as a viable option for?
One of the options is that the framework has people, when citizens go to the website, they have to authenticate. So the authentication will give the system the opportunity to access data, whatever the data is, and it could be some information, for example, the handicap card validation. If this information is already on the profile, it should not ask again. So the system only asks one thing, and what is already in the system, it should be taken for granted and just help it. The idea is to make it as simple as possible. The less steps, the less information.
So you're going to exclude all those questions he will never give you an answer to.
Yeah.
You will not be able to give an answer.
So those questions is more to demonstrate the idea that the future work connections with the database, profile database would be a way to go. There are already some ontology-based profile mechanism. Then you put your ID, it already identifies, oh, you're Joni, you are studying in the Netherlands, you are blah, 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 and then it goes automatically to the government and finds out information.
Okay.
I would like to pose one more question on behalf of Wout.
Okay, I have a last question, but you can.
Okay.
No, mine will be the last one.
On behalf of Wout, I want to ask you what is the difference between the composition and execution phase? Are there any additional requirements you have to put on the framework when you really want to execute those services? What?
Well, the composition part, it's about interacting and asking what do you really want. Like, oh, you want this service, so go to this and that. And the execution phase, in fact, doesn't show on the screen. It happens on the back end. It happens in the back side of the website. And then the user only receives directly the outputs. So the idea is that the execution is just Dynamicus gives the number of the service, the information that was inserted, and endpoint indicates where the service is, and then it executes. You could understand the composition engine as that political guy who knows where everybody does and where everybody is, and then you ask to him, hey, what do you know? Somebody who fixes the door, and then he knows who does it and how much to pay, blah blah blah, and then this person indicates to you, and then you go directly there.
So that would include something like non-functional behavior of those
No
specific
functional,
services?
if you want to select services that for price, I want cheap services, for example, it is able to do it. So Dynamicus don't really do the work, but it knows who should do it. So more or less like the intermediator guy.
Okay, then I can ask the last question. For those people who haven't seen the movie, can you explain how Obelix and Asterix finally got their permit? This is quite interesting.
Who here has never seen this video before? Has not seen. Okay, so they spent a lot of time trying to find out the service and stuff, and then he was like, "Calm down, calm down. We should give to them the same as they give to us." And then they go to the receptionist and they ask for a service that doesn't exist. And then the guy, "Hey, I don't know the service. I have to check it." And then this guy had to check it with somebody else. And then the whole building was trying to communicate to identify what the hell was that service they were looking for. So then everybody was having the problem of composing seconds. It was very, very smart.
Actually playing with the same strategy, just they were getting confused, they confused the people.
And then at the end they had to find a solution for improving.
Okay. Thank you very much. So what is going to happen now is the committee will go to another place, and then we are going to talk about the presentation, the work, the report, everything. We are going to determine the audio, and then we come back.
Okay. One surprise. Zij onderhalve gebouwd dat ik dacht ik weet niet zeker. Het is allemaal alle tunnels zijn. Dit is mijn personal edition.
He hasn't been practicing enough. Johnny, you need to walk more in them. You're not fluid yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I have to use it to get out of home today. But it's part of the integration process.
You also have to customize the suit so it works with it.
Yeah, kind of. But I think it's pretty good.
You know you have to dance now, haven't you?
Ja, dat klopt voor dans.
Shoe dance. Maybe one of the Dutch people can show us how.
Do you have questions about it?
Yeah,
I'm not answering anything.
Ik mag wel iets meer. Ik vind van 50, ik heb gisteren nog ik had een beetje bij het
serviços ela
ik doe het blij.